Thank you very much. Welcome, Mr. Cordray. I am always very pleased and delighted to have the opportunity to discuss the work that you're doing at the Bureau, and you have done a magnificent job. As a matter of fact, I say this time and time again, that in all of the work that was done with the Dodd-Frank reform, I believe that the creation of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is the most significant part of that reform. And I'm very pleased with the way that you have taken on this responsibility and the way that you have produced for our consumers. Having said that, there are two issues that I've been working on all of my career, starting in the California State Legislature and continuing since I've been here in Congress. One is payday lending, and the other is private post-secondary schools and the way that they operate. So first, I'd like you to share with us the research that you have done on payday lending. What have you discovered, and what are your recommendations? I know that we can't simply just put people out of business, but the payday lending operation in this country is such that people are still paying 400% interest on these loans, and they get trapped in the loans. What have you done, and what do you see as possibilities for correcting this situation in the future?
So for me, this has been a major issue at the Bureau going all the way back to when I first became the Director in January of 2012. The very first field hearing we held after I became the Director occurred in Birmingham, Alabama. It was on the topic of small dollar lending, and we heard extensive testimony from a packed House on both sides of this issue. And I made plain at that time that we were concerned about maintaining access to credit for people who have emergency needs, which is something that long pre-existed the payday lending industry. It goes back more than a century in this country since we've had a money-based economy. But at the same time, there are people who get caught in a debt trap, and a high number of payday borrowers end up rolling over the loans again and again and again, and end up paying out well more in costs than they borrowed in the first place.
So this has turned out not to be just for emergency lending. It has
We've
grown.
done two substantial white papers with more extensive research than has ever been done in this area over the past 3 years. And we have found that to be a key phenomenon in this industry, and it is the concern that we have. We're now working toward putting out a proposal that would lead to a rulemaking on this subject. We're getting very close on that process being publicly underway. But I would say that this is it's a very difficult issue. It's a complicated issue, but it's an important issue that affects a lot of consumers in this country, both pro and con, and we hear a lot from them.
Well, the Department of Defense has proposed rules to close loopholes under the Military Lending Act that would limit covered credit to a 36% annual percentage rate. Do you agree with that?
Congress spoke, I thought, pretty loudly and clearly on this in 2007 with the Military Lending Act. Congress then spoke, I thought, loudly a couple of years ago, reopening the regulations that had been adopted and suggesting that they needed to be broader, stronger, and more comprehensive. The Department of Defense has moved forward, I think, quite responsibly and steadily on this project. Many other agencies have been asked to collaborate with them and work with them on this. We've been among those agencies. They continue to move forward, and I think it's very important protections for service members. You bet.
In your research, have you discovered the role that the banks play in perhaps providing capital resources for payday lenders?
I know there's been discussion of that. We also have had the opportunity now in the last several years to perform a number of examinations of payday lenders. First time that's ever been done by a Federal supervisor, and really dig into their business operations and understand their business model and understand both the pros and the cons for consumers, and also ensure their compliance with law as it exists today.
Is there a direct link between capital that's provided by major banks to payday lenders?
I think different companies in every sector of our economy get financing in different ways. Sometimes it's through loans from banks. Sometimes they raise it from shareholders. Depends on their corporate model. Certainly, there's some amount of that here, although there's nothing illegal about any of that.
Do you believe that there is any way we can bring payday lending under control anytime soon?
So when you say bring under control, as I said,
I'd like to do something that would eliminate the ability for them to get 400% interest from people who are desperate.
I hear you loud and clear on that. We are, as I said, in the late stages of beginning a public process to write rules with respect to this industry, and it will be based on substantial research and analysis we have done. I would say check back with us soon, and you'll see work underway here.
I have a few seconds left on Corinthian. I'd like to thank you for some loan forgiveness that you helped to initiate for Corinthian students. Corinthian is just one of the many private post-secondary schools that have been basically creating serious problems for consumers for a long time now. And we also have some Corinthian students who have decided that this is predatory lending and they're not going to repay those debts. They are organizing, and I support them. It's not just Corinthian. It's a whole slew of these private post-secondary schools, many of whom have schools where they're collecting government money. They don't have, credited, credentialed teachers. They don't really teach anything. The students end up with big debts. They then can't get loans. They can't do anything. What are we going to do about the issue of private post-secondary schools who have been ripping off the government for so long?
So we have brought 2 lawsuits to date that remain pending. I want to be a little careful about what I say about those because they're in front of courts, but our complaints speak for themselves in terms of what we found in our investigation and believe to be the case there. In the Corinthian case, I will say I thought there was spectacular work by colleagues of mine at the Bureau to generate and secure significant debt relief for student loan borrowers who I believe were misled into being deeply harmed by predatory loans.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. The Chair now recognizes